Well, good evening. Welcome to Grover Hill Zion United Methodist Church's Thursday evening devotions from the kitchen table, where we've been talking about the stories behind some of the great hymns of the church as to why they were written and why they were so special to us and so important for us as well. The authors oftentimes wrote their hymns under tragic circumstances. Not always. Some of them were joyous occasions. But certainly we can hear their stories and we can reflect on those hymns as well when we sing them, because we look at those hymns and we can feel them deep down in our hearts and in our souls. The hymn we're looking at tonight, by the way, is called Precious Memories. And the author of this hymn, J.B.F. Wright, was reflecting on his family and his loved ones as he remembering some fond memories as he wrote these words one night. You know, memories, when we think of precious memories, memories are one of the things that death cannot destroy. You know, those fond memories we hold with us all of our lives, and in certain moments they can bring us comfort. Those memories they can bring peace to our souls. They just bring us a calm, especially if we think only of those good positive things and we're able to let go of the negative things, because they'll bring bad things to us and make us feel miserable. This story that I'm going to share with you about the author of the song comes from a book called A Song is Born by Robert J. Taylor. It's written many years ago. I've read some excerpts of it. There are other hymns in there as well that he tells the story of, some 99 or 100 hymns, the stories of him. And he begins saying, one crisp autumn night in 1923 at his home near Hamlin, Texas, the thoughts of a gentle, unassuming farmhand turned to the days of his youth. Days before the family circle was broken. Days when the cares of the world were unknown. J.B.F. Wright was not yet an old man, but several events had happened in his life that caused him to reflect back upon happier days and more joyful times. Wright was born in Tennessee on February the 21st, 1877. He was the fifth of 12 children. His parents moved to Limestone County, Texas when he was just 2 years old. It was there in a community called Box Church. It was located just 4 miles southeast of Groesbeck, Texas, that he spent the happy days of his youth. He attended the community school. He fell in love and married a local girl by the name of Fanny Jackson. And to their union, 8 children were born. Box Church, that's a rather strange name for a community, isn't it? And there are a couple reasons why it may be named that. Nobody knows for sure, so I'm not going to share that with you. But in 1902, Wright took his young family, or his young bride, and they left the old homestead, as he puts it, rambled over Texas for many years. He was a farmer by trade. Later he became a custodian and nurseryman for Cisco Junior College in Cisco, Texas, in which he retired in the early 1950s. Wright's mother, he said, was one of the sweetest singers in her generation. And his earliest memories were of his father and mother singing together the songs of their youth. And it was this early environment, which inspired Wright to write more than 500 songs. 500 songs. You know, he falls into a category with a fortunate few who's spent their lifetime writing songs, and for some unexplainable reason comes up with the song which eclipses all the others and lifts one to an imperishable place in the hearts of people. This happened to John Brazelton Fillmore Wright, JBF, as he's known by, when he wrote the song Precious Memories. In 1909, word came to Wright that his mother had gone home to glory. She had passed away. 5 years later, his father died. Now the middle-aged songwriter recounts that the loss of his parents had a tremendous effect on his life, and that their memory had lingered through all the changes in his years in his life. But it was still it was on the still autumn night of October the 23rd, 1923, while he lived in Hamlin, Texas, that the scenes of the home he had left some 20 years before unfolded in his mind. And he was inspired then to write this famous song. Perhaps an event which weighed most heavily on his heart that autumn night when he wrote this beautiful song was the recent death of their youngest son, Everett Jackson Wright. He said that they lived by the railroad track below Hamlin, Texas. And he wrote that some years later, little 3-year-old Everett would watch the trains as he and he would stand in the front yard by the gate as the trains went by, and he would take and wave to the train, and the trainsman then would wave back to him. And then on a Sunday evening, January the 22nd, 1922, little Everett was stricken with what they called then membrane's croup. Today we call it diphtheria. The next day he was dead. For many days after this, when the trains would pass by, Wright could see the trainsmen watching for little Everett to wave at them, and he was not there to wave at them. He said, many times I watched them looking for him, and I wept and I cried. And sometime later he reflected back on that autumn night in 1923 when he wrote this famous hymn. He said, Wright said that when my thoughts turned to my little son, whom we had buried the year before, I bathed my pillow in tears. Thus, true to the line of the poem, it was actually in the stillness of the midnight that he wrote these words. Precious memory, how they linger, how they ever flood my soul. In the stillness of the midnight, precious sacred scenes unfold. Robert Taylor continues that he and his wife Barbara had the opportunity to visit Hamlin, Texas, to locate the old J.L. Keene farm just east of the town where the Wright family lived and worked. He said only a few remnants of the shed still exist where once vibrant families worked and played. The railroad no longer existed, even though the roadbed was still there. Standing along there as well was a modern highway, he said, which now cuts through the front yard of the old Wright, the old homestead, and you can capture the mental picture of the times gone by when Wright was inspired to write Precious Memories. It's easy to visualize the trains coming by so near the house. And then Taylor says if you look about a mile west, you could see the cemetery where Everett Wright was buried. And imagine what J.B.F. Wright must have felt when he was inspired to write this famous hymn, Precious Memories. We often talk about one's education and academic level of higher learning and that we achieve. And there's no doubt that a formal education in our society is important. However, some good, sacred memory preserved from childhood is perhaps the best education one could obtain. There's nothing higher, nothing stronger, nothing more wholesome, nothing better for life in the future than some good memory. Especially a memory from childhood, from church, or from home. One of the most critical factors in making the right decision is precious memories. Fond memories can bring comfort and peace and even help us make it through the day. No wonder the Apostle Paul writes in Philippians chapter 4 verse 8, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Well, I hope you reflect on some precious memory this evening and in the days to come, and be blessed. Have a great and blessed weekend.